Hello, my name is Mary Mickelson, and I would like to share with you some classroom management strategies for the new year. I am a master's student at the American College of Education, and this is part of my capstone project. So a little bit of background knowledge on what classroom management is. Classroom management is how teachers create a safe, respectful classroom environment that reinforces positive behaviors and eliminates behaviors that negatively impact learning opportunities. Something to keep in mind as we go through this presentation is that not all strategies work in every classroom. So you have to think about your teaching style and the age of your students. As we're going through these strategies, we want to be proactive in preventing these negative behaviors rather than reactive. These negative behaviors could include acting out, aggression, hyperactivity, poor social relationships, defiance, immaturity, poor academic achievement, poor attention span. Our goal is that by putting a lot of this work and time into the beginning of the school year, we can then save time in the future by having to do with less of those negative behaviors with our students. Starting off on the very first day, we're going to lay out the expectations for our students. I break this up into three key processes. Our first key process is that we are creating the expectations to be clear and concise. We want to keep it short and sweet for our students so that they understand it in a quick and simple way. We also want to make sure that our expectations are actionable, meaning it's not just a list of things that the students don't do. And it's also not just abstract rules like be respectful. If one of our expectations is that students should be respectful, we want to make sure that we list out the actions that go along with that, such as having their materials set and ready to go at the beginning of class, or students listen when the person leading this discussion is talking and they wait for their turn to speak, just so that students aren't just given a list of abstract ideas. And then the third process is that we want to make sure that we have students involved in creating and implementing the expectations. So let me kind of give you the overview of how I set out expectations at the beginning of every year. Rather than me just coming up with a list of things for students to do, I involve them in the process by giving them an anonymous way to kind of discuss it with me. I always ask the same three questions, and students anonymously respond either through a Google form or through a Pear Deck or through something like that. The first question I always ask is, what does the ideal classroom look like and feel like for the students? And they'll give me crazy ideas like, I never want to get homework. I want there to be cool LED lights on every inch of the classroom. It needs to have a rocket ship in the back. And they'll give you a million crazy things that just aren't practical. But then as the teacher, we can come together and we can lead a discussion on, well, these elements of your dream classroom aren't practical. I can't feed you pizza every day. But here are the things that we can highlight in this list. You guys want the classroom to be well decorated. I can do that. You want the classroom to be easy to move around in and well organized. Okay, I can do that. You want the classroom to be a nice, easy temperature because you get hot or cold easily. Okay, we'll talk about it when we make seating charts. I'll make sure you're far away from the window. That way you don't catch a breeze or something like that. The second question I always ask students is, in our ideal classroom, what role does the teacher play? And again, some students will give you crazy expectations. Like, again, the teacher never gives homework, but they'll give you more realistic things and actionable things once you have that discussion with them. They want their teacher to be passionate. They want their teacher to be patient. They want their teacher to be a good listener when they speak to them. So we take that list of things that they want their teacher to be, and we write them all up on the board and we summarize them into things that the teacher can do. And then the third and final question I ask is, what should the ideal student be doing in our classroom? And students will give me a list of things for the ideal student to be doing. They should be respectful of our time by not talking while the teacher's talking. They should have their materials ready to go, and students will help us create that list. So then at the end of this huge discussion, we basically come together to create a poster that's split up into 2 columns. In one column will be the role of the teacher, and it'll list out the bullet points that we were able to summarize. And on the other side will be the role of the student, and it'll give us some bullet points for what students should be doing. And then at the end, the students all sign or put a sticker on the poster, depending on what resources I happen to have laying around the room. And throughout the year, if a student's not meeting those expectations, we can refer back to it and say, hey, buddy, I know you might be having a rough day, or you're really struggling with keeping your backpack organized, but at the beginning of the year, we all agreed that we would have our materials ready to go. So let's get that in order. Students really like this way of doing things because it helps them take ownership of their actions a little more. Now that we have our expectations laid out, we want to make sure that we are maintaining those expectations. One of the ways to do this is by using positive attending. Positive attending is the strategic use of positive praise. So it's going to allow the teacher to highlight positive behaviors more frequently than the negative, thereby changing our peers into positive role models while raising the confidence and efficacy of our targeted students. What positive attending actually is that if you catch a student doing one of those positive behaviors that you listed out in your expectations, you heap the praise on that student. And positive attending is basically used to target either specific students, maybe those students that are high need students are the ones that are typically demonstrating negative behaviors, or targeting specific behaviors that you want your class to demonstrate more frequently. Positive attending is an awesome strategy because it reminds students of the expectations in a positive way, helping improve the climate of our classroom. And the elements of effective positive attending include specificity, meaning tell the student specifically what they did correctly, immediacy, consistency, and you want to make sure that you're avoiding criticism or negative comments and that you're focusing on student performance or actions. So you don't want to stop the praise short and say, oh, you're so smart, Charlie. You want to say, oh, Charlie, thank you so much for answering that question. I can see that you're really using your thinking cap today. Thank you for volunteering. So don't focus on just saying, oh, you're smart. Branch out and say specifically what the student did that was so awesome. Another thing that you can do to consistently demonstrate those expectations is that we can create a reward system for our students. And they don't have to be physical rewards, though students do like to be bribed. Some examples of reward systems that I've used in the past. I've used positive postcards that basically share the student successes with their families. I've sent positive postcards for good test grades, good attendance, good volunteering in class. You could also use verbal praise in your classroom, certificates for progress, so you can make it like a party day or a party 15 minutes on a Friday where you give students little rewards for meeting the expectations. Or if you are going to go the physical prize route, you can give away physical prizes or raffle tickets that students can exchange. The benefit of using a reward system is that it helps build positive student-teacher relationships. And again, you're going out of your way to focus on the positive things that students are doing rather than only talking about the expectations negatively when a student does something wrong. The main reasons that we're doing this and trying to be proactive is because we want to build positive climate by building positive student-teacher relationships. Students that report high-quality student-teacher relationships demonstrate fewer negative behaviors, show more engagement, and have better academic performance. Some ways that we can build a positive climate and build positive student-teacher relationships would be learning about their interest and listening to them when they talk to you about their interest. One of the ways to kind of start off the year on the right foot is maybe give them a quick interest survey just to see, do they have any career paths? Do they have any favorite movies? Things like that you can then integrate into tasks when you start doing lessons. You also want to make sure that you're integrating time for discussion and interaction into daily lessons, whether that's just saying, oh, we just did a really hard topic, let's go ahead and take a quick brain break and talk with your students about some things that are not school related for a couple of minutes, or building in some time for collaboration and group work, so that way you can touch base with your students and really show them that you care. It's also important that you're using a variety of activity types to keep class fresh and engaging. So unlike what I'm doing right now, where I'm just talking to you for 15 minutes straight, mix it up for your students. Another key aspect here is that when we're implementing our classroom management strategies, we want to show students that we're doing it consistently and fairly. 3 of the ways that we can make sure that students feel comfortable in our classrooms is that we want to make sure that we have predictable routines for our students. They don't want to come in and just because you're having a bad day, suddenly the entire class is off. One of the ways to have predictable routines is to at least have the first 10 minutes of class be pretty much scheduled in the same every day. So students come in, they know exactly where to look to see what materials they need that day. The materials are laid out in a pretty consistent way so they can grab what they need. There's a warm-up on the board. Students know where they're supposed to be seated, all those kinds of things. You also want to make sure that you're having predictable reactions to student behaviors. So we are humans. We occasionally have maybe lower or higher thresholds before we blow up. You want to make sure that you're trying to keep that consistent. I know sometimes the student that just keeps tapping on the pencil is going to drive you crazy and you're going to want to snap. We want to make sure that we kind of rein that in, and that if sometimes the student can get away with tapping the pencil, and other days that's going to make you want to jump out the window, that we have a conversation with that student and maybe give them an alternate way to demonstrate or get that energy out. And then, as always, if we are going to provide consequences to our students, we want to make sure we're tying all of our expectations and our consequences back to the principles of safety and respect that we had during that expectation phase. Again, when you are proactively trying to prevent student misbehavior or lack of engagement, we want to make sure that we're going out of our way to build tasks that are engaging and relevant for our students. And I try to do this using 3 different methods. Number 1, we're creating lessons that have hooks or that are relevant to students, i.e. we're using real-world applications, projects, things that are related to their interests, etc. Something that I found interesting is if it's hard for me to come up with a good hook, I'll just throw in one of the students' names from the class and say oh yeah, Charlie is now throwing a rock off a cliff and we need to calculate when's the rock going to hit the ground. The student that you're throwing into the problem will think it's funny. Other students will be like, Charlie, why are you throwing the rock off the cliff? And it does a little bit just to get it more engaging, even if the content itself isn't very engaging that day. The second thing we can do to make it more engaging or relevant for students is that we can allow student choice when possible. And again, not all concepts are going to be practical in this aspect. That's why when you do get a concept that this is simple for, you want to hop on that right away and really get that in. That way you're helping your students build some autonomy, being able to use their voice in class a little bit. And as a teacher, it gives you a chance to kind of step back and see, are they capable of being independent and building those independent skills? And then the third thing, again, is just using a variety of tasks to keep students involved over the whole unit or the entire school year. If students are consistently doing the same exact thing every day, where it's just warm up, direct instruction, worksheet, they're not, even if it's the most interesting topic in the world to them, they're not going to be engaged over time. So by mixing it up and mixing up the structure a little bit, students will be engaged. Now, as a teacher, some actions that we need to do to make sure that we're managing classroom behavior in a positive way is that we are actually modeling the positive behaviors we want to see in our students. So if you feel that you're feeling frustrated, you need to make sure you're allowing your students to see that. And then what are you doing to handle it? Because some students might not have those SEL tools to handle the frustration on their own. So if they see an adult doing it, they'll know what steps to do, what deep breaths or what distraction techniques you can get your brain out of the rut. You also want to make sure that you're narrating your thought process and your actions, demonstrating the desired behaviors. So let's go back to our buddy that just keeps tapping the pencil and you're just about to jump out of your skin. Maybe act out, oh, I'm very frustrated right now because I'm overstimulated with the pencil. Take a deep breath. Okay, now Charlie, could you please stop tapping your pencil? Because I'm a little overstimulated right now and it's driving me crazy. So by modeling that positive behavior and narrating the thought process and your actions, it's showing students how to positively respond rather than some of their negative behaviors that a student could do. The last thing that you want to do when you're modeling your positive behaviors is that you want to refrain from punishment, especially if you're in that very frustrated frame of mind. And things that we can do alternatively to that would be to use discussion and I statements to explain what a student did wrong, and just as important, what they should do differently in the future so that they don't do the wrong thing again. So while you're just going through all of these strategies and kind of picking and choosing the ones that work better for you and your teaching style, we want to make sure that we are considering and acknowledging our students' diversity. Our diverse students have diverse needs. So your definition of respectful behavior and theirs might be different. So let's consider our students with special needs. Can they be given extra support or grace when they're unable to resist their impulses? So maybe our student that just keeps tapping on the pencil has been diagnosed with ADHD. So that explains the excess energy that they're trying to get out. So can you extend some grace to that student, maybe give them a fidget, give them some sort of constructive way to get that energy out. Maybe they can go for a quick lap around the room or stand up and out of their seat and get out their jiggles. Or let's consider the culture of our students, because they're not all going to look like us. Are we treating our student respectfully when we're interacting, or are we doing things to press that student's buttons, maybe accidentally? So in conclusion, no matter what strategies you choose for your classroom and classroom management, it's important to remember that consistency is key. If you have your set of expectations, let's try to focus on the students' positive behaviors more frequently than the negatives by using positive attending or rewards or whatever strategy you end up finding that works in your room. We want to make sure that we're creating engagement in our students so that they can interact with the tasks on a deeper level. So we're going to create opportunities for student autonomy and choice and involve them in making big classroom decisions. And then we want to make sure that we're creating a positive climate for our students by being a positive person ourselves. So modeling that good behavior for our students, narrating our thoughts and actions, and then just demonstrating our passion and our excitement for our content. Okay, so thank you for your time. Again, my name is Mary Mickelson. If you have any questions or concerns, you can email me. I would love to hear from you. Thank you.